All right, Carolyn Gilbert, Lee Jacobs, we've been through our 9 biggest mistakes that radio stations make. Number one's going to be so obvious it's almost anticlimactic. Overpaying is something that we see when clients come to us and we see what they were charged by other potential research partners. So let's start with the one that we've kind of already covered, but I think it's important to understand the price difference, and that is the old-fashioned auditorium music test and our auditorium test replacement.
Well, so much of the pricing in the old days was based on the way the sample was gathered. For both call out and OMTs. AMTs, back in the day, you had to get people out of their homes. You had to feed them. You had to pay them a significant amount of money to get them into the room. You had to pay a field service an equal amount of money. I mean, I remember I was paying $200 per respondent back in the day. So if I'm paying that and I have a business to run and you want 100 respondents, your base price is $20,000. It's crazy for 100.
Yeah, that's before any markup.
Yeah, right. Yeah, before we mark it up. And so, yeah, those tests were costing $35,000, $40,000 with travel and food and all this stuff. And when we started doing it in the way we're doing it, which is online with qualified, geographically balanced samples, oversampling instead of waiting for the last guy to show up.
What, you mean there's not some magic about a 3-mile radius around the hotel where you do?
No. But that $200 a respondent went all the way down. And I'm not going to tell you what we pay, but it ain't nothing like $200 a respondent. We do pay our sample, but to sit in their bathrobes in their kitchens, not to get in the car during rush hour and sit with us for 3 hours. And so when we got into this business, we said, well, we could get real rich real fast if we just kept charging the prices they're used to. And I said, in an industry that is hurting the way radio is hurting, that is over levered, that's just greed, and we won't do it. So while some people are still charging $35,000 to $40,000 for a 100-person, 600 hook OMT, our prices are, anywhere between 15 and 22, depending on your screen and your sample size and your hook list. It's just greed to do anything more than that.
And that's for a big song list. We also have one if you can afford to test fewer songs and
right.
and ask fewer overall questions, right?
Yep. We have 400 hooks, 100 sample, only screening questions for $9,500.
Yep.
Because greed is not on our plate. We need to make a living. We don't need to live off this industry at this particular time.
Yeah, it's 2024. Nobody has any money anymore. So we need to use the dollars very smartly. And so, Lee, the other kind of big expense, almost shocking, jaw-dropping we see is people getting away with charging over $50,000 for a market perceptual.
Right. And listen, it's probably the most intimate product, if you will, that we offer. I mean, you're really inviting us into your kitchen, to help make, policy decisions, strategic decisions.
Oh, it could be, should we blow it up or should we fire the morning show? Right. Those are the kind of decisions.
It's massive. And I guess there is the presumption that, well, if it costs more, it must be really good. Or it just might be really expensive. There are examples throughout consumer packaged goods where you can pay a lot more money and get the same thing as the anyway. So instead of prices that range from the 30s to the 50s, we're talking 18, 22, 25. It depends. Really,
that's for a full-blown perceptual too.
Yeah,
you can change a format with the kind of data you're going to get back.
Right. Yes. We're going to get deeply embedded in how do they feel about your station, how they feel about the competitors. We can look at personalities. We can look at music styles. We can look at latent images attached to the stations. We can get rich verbatims these days. And I used to detest having to deal with all the verbatims. And now we've developed techniques so that we can get a quick summary and understand better right from, from a very quick standpoint, what are they actually saying? Trying to isolate those kinds of information. And again, the price is so much lower. And So instead of worrying about, well, we trusted what we paid a lot more for, well, now you got some money left over. You could test the music. You could add a call out program for your station. You could add to the marketing budget. You could have better prizes. You could keep that part-timer that you were kind of thinking maybe you'd box that day part and toss him.
Now, there's other times where we just want to know, well, is our contest name good enough? And by the way, the competitor just replaced all their staff with AI. Is that an exploitable weakness? So we have just much more tactical, surgical answers we need. We've got another version of perceptuals for that.
Right. We call it the ASAP study. And I'm not even going to try to remember what the acronym stood for. I coined it, but the point was it's a shorter interview. It's just 10 minutes. It's about half the length of the standard interview. So you're really going to have to focus on what's the one thing you need to know.
Right.
If you can drill it down to that, we've got a 300-person sample. We've got a 10-minute interview. We can get really precise answers really quickly. I think that's a tremendous benefit, and it comes with a price tag under 10 grand.
All right. And finally, Carolyn, probably the one that you're most passionate about because you see radio stations wasting money, paying twice for the sample where the second use is outdated. And that's the rolling samples versus discrete week samples in current music testing.
Exactly. I mean, we were in call centers back in the day. We had 700 people making annoying phone calls in 2008.
To play hooks over the phone.
Yeah, to play hooks over the phone. And, you know, when I started doing that in 19...
The fact that it begins with one, that it's
yeah. I mean,
it's
we get 5 completions an hour. By the time we shut down those call centers, and thank God I personally didn't have to do that, we were getting 1 completion every 3 hours.
Mm.
Therefore, anybody making phone calls was experiencing the same thing. That call center cost $23 per hour to run per person. So that what we're saying is one responded cost us $69, meaning to run the business, once again, we're looking at $100 per respondent. Well, you want 80 to 100 people in your sample? Undoable, unthinkable. So people who stayed, kept on the telephone, went, God, we can't possibly finish this and make any money. I know what we'll do. We're going to roll the sample, meaning we won't give them 100, we'll give them 50 this week, and then we'll give them 50 more next week. So they'll think they're looking at 100 people, but they're looking at 50 from this week and 50 from last week, meaning that by the time the next round comes, and they're usually 2-week flights, the data you're looking at is a month old.
Yeah, for half of the people in your research.
For half the people in your research, and we're going to keep charging you this ridiculous amount of money. Well, when we started doing research, again, we complete our research very quickly because our databases are tens and hundreds of thousands, not 1,000 people in a box of index cards.
And none of the station databases, you're rescreening from dozens of different sources. Yep.
Yes, I mean, really hundreds of different sources.
All right.
Our data comes from hundreds of different sources. It's all outbound.
Yep.
We will not accept a database from a radio station.
Yeah, and this is not self-selecting. These are people already impaneled in hotel rewards points, programs, all that stuff. Yep.
Yes, exactly. A lot of it is games.
Yep.
You get points if you do this 5-minute survey.
Okay? Yeah, same people that get paid to watch a video online, for example. It's that kind of thing.
Yep. Exactly. But they do the music research. We clean the music research, that luxury of not having to pray for 5 o'clock on the day it's due to get your last 5 respondents.
You throw out deadbeats that really don't screen in. Yeah, all that.
We throw out, when I clean research, you can say you're a P1 to the radio station. You can say you listen 4 hours a day to the radio station. If you're unfamiliar with 3/4 of the music, you're a liar. You're out of here. Yep. I mean, we see these things, and for every question you answer, I've got a question that you don't see that we know. We know where you are. Our data is geocoded.
Yeah.
So if you decide that you're going to play a game and come in from Nairobi, Kenya, I know it. Go away. I mean, we throw out when I personally clean an OMT, I throw out 25% of the respondents
Yep.
because I don't like them and I don't have to pay for them, and therefore the station doesn't pay for them. But again, we don't charge too much money. The prices we charge are essentially the prices that I charged back in the 90s.
Yeah, and I think you were telling me that the compromised version of this, where people are basically mixing and matching old sample with new sample and still charging, it's about what we charge, right? But there's a huge difference in terms of the sample composition. It's all fresh
Right.
respondents.
Right. We are 100% fresh respondents, gathered within a few days, not a month.
Yep.
So that you're getting right now what's
Yep.
going on in your market right now, and that's how we do business. And we don't want to rape an industry. It's
Right.
just not appropriate in 2024.
In fact, we like to give it up free to the industry. Lee, we just got Ratings Prospect Study 23 back. That contains all sorts of insight. You don't have to be a New Voodoo client to see it.
Right. And an email to tellmemore@newvoodoo.com will get you on our schedule. We've got slots this month and more next month in April, but we'd love to spend a little time with you. At minimum, it's about 20 minutes, but we'd rather have a conversation, let you look at the data, ask us questions as you go. And so maybe it takes a half an hour, or if you tell me that, Kenny has to be gone at the bottom of the hour, then we'll make it happen. I'm fine at hitting the bottom of the hour. But the bottom line is we'd rather share the information with you so you can make better decisions to have your station excel in the spring.
And this study is all about a look at not just regular radio listeners. 80% of those regular radio listeners will never accept a meter or diary. We gave you the secret sauce, the key behavioral and perceptual data points about this special group of people that give you your monthly report card. So reach out to Carolyn or Lee at tellmemore@newvoodoo.com, or stay tuned. We're going to start in less than a month giving out piecemeal versions of this in upcoming future videos. We'll see you then.
New Voodoo builds digital products and conducts research and marketing campaigns for clients.
It's easy to get in touch. Drop us a line at tellmemore@newvoodoo.com.